So, everyone, we are on to, I believe, it's week 15 of the CFL season. Can you really believe it? Because week one, or wait, is it week 15? It's week 15 or week 16. The weeks are just all kind of blending into each other. So, I have to do a quick little search up here quickly. I hate that I have to do this. It is week 16. My apologies, because week one, Cliff Pine was on my show for the very first time. 16 weeks later, the finale for Al's Argos. I get started by the chaos that was in the Argos game. But I'm more intrigued by what your Alouettes did Saturday night, because they went into the stadium of the best team in the league, and they just basically came with their belt and just said, "Yeah, we're gonna do this for 60 minutes tonight." Like, was this a game like a get right game for the Alouettes, or was it just like a, what was the vibe that you got from the game? Because we haven't seen that Alouette team in quite some time.
We certainly have not. And talk about a welcome sight for Alouettes Nation to see that kind of team again, to see that kind of offense and defense again. That was a very, very welcome sight. And I think this game kind of turned the heat up a little bit on the Alouettes, considering how the Argos won on that buzzer beater field goal. I mean, that was just wow. I think once that happened, and once it was learned that Saskatchewan was going to get a playoff spot, I can't but wonder if maybe just a little bit did they, I don't want to say take their foot off the gas per se, but maybe it wasn't like, okay, we got to go out and win. We got to get that playoff spot, lock it up right now and be done with it. I don't think there was really that for Saskatchewan, but yeah. I definitely feel like Montreal has decided that, no, we got these guys breathing down our necks even more, and we gotta do something about that. So I think that was the motivation going into the game Saturday night. And again, this was just an absolutely phenomenal performance, both offensively and defensively from Montreal.
Yeah, that's the one big key there is defensively, because I feel like the Noel Thorpe defense that has been around the last couple of years. This year's not that it's been not the same, but I feel like it's not been to the level of what it was, especially like 2024, back half 2023, when they were just going in and basically, hey, you put anyone in front of us, we can beat them. You put anyone in front of us, we can shut them down. I feel like too for Saskatchewan, this was like one of those weird, like, we're going into the bye week kind of games where it's like, hey, they're in the bye week. I think some Rough Rider fans, like, even though some of the people I know through 3 Down Nation were kind of saying like, hey, don't be shocked if the Riders lose this game here. But for Montreal, that's a really big confidence booster, just because, and I said this last week on my show with the wonderful folks from Turf District, basically that if Montreal had lost that game, it would have opened up Pandora's box of chaos. That's the big thing right there with that, where now it's, and I said this in my walk and talk after the, like you were saying, crazy Elks Argos game Saturday afternoon. I feel like it's not really a playoff eliminator, but I feel like whoever loses, especially if it is Toronto, and we'll get into their situation in a little bit, it really takes a hit, because it's like, hey, we had these 3 great games. Now we're dealing with more adversity. If we lose this, they basically got to go and win 4 straight to end the year, and 3 of those games aren't going to be easy. Or all 4 of those games actually aren't going to be easy, because at the end of the day, you've got 5 teams, and I would say you have 5 playoff spots left, and I would say there's only 2 teams I really would consider not in the playoff picture at the moment. Everyone else, I think, has a shot to make it. So that means that there's going to be a team that's disappointed come the end of October.
Yeah, and mathematically right now, everybody's still in it, right? And that's kind of what's keeping everybody tuning in and, paying attention and starting to figure out the scenarios and seeing, okay, how many games we have left? Who are we playing in those games? Can we beat this guy? Can we beat that guy? It's, again, part of the fun, because, the old saying is it doesn't count until after Labor Day. Well, guess what? We're well past Labor Day now. And now these games are starting to count, and it's starting to get real. So every win all of a sudden means that much more. And every loss, you're just looking and going, okay, now what? What can we do? And then you're basically bargaining with the football gods to see, like, can my team make it? What do you have to do? What kind of, sacrifice do I have to make in order to make sure my team makes it to the Grey Cup playoffs?
So when I say the whole thing about like 5 spots, because I know everyone's still mathematically alive, but after what I saw last week, I would probably put Ottawa on the outside looking in, like the inside on the outside looking in, just because they pretty much have to run the table down the stretch to get in. And then for Edmonton, I think it's just not the same thing, but it's pretty much a loss of that magnitude Saturday is either going to kill you or it's going to make you stronger. And I lean with, the what we know from Edmonton, to where I think you have 4 teams in front of them that make better cases to make the playoffs, even though one of them's been playing really bad since basically Labor Day. But no one's out until it's out. That's just how I view it. I still think that there's still potential for chaos. There's still potential for a lot of stuff. It's just really a matter of now, with the bye weeks, with how teams are going. Do people start resting starters? Do people just keep doing this? Because when I look at the playoffs right now, and I think it's safe to agree, apart from Sask, who did officially clinch, I would probably safely put Calgary and Hamilton in there as well. So you still have 3 spots up for grabs. But the only other takeaway last week, and I'll go into mine, the game I was at with Toronto and Edmonton, the Argonaut team that you and I saw the last time you and I spoke around the middle of July to the Argonaut team now, because I had a friend messaging me about this where it's like, the quarterback position takes a hit. Like Saturday, offense wasn't doing it, so defense said, hey, we're going to give you every inch to keep you in this game. We're going to play our best. We're going to shut down the run, something our Toronto's been trying to do for a lot of the season. And the offense basically took that and ran with it to where this is a team that I think if you give them the chance, they're going to take it. And they use anything as momentum. And I honestly think for as much craziness as happened Saturday, especially with the head coach, he's someone the players really get behind in Ryan Dinwiddie. And the moment Saturday, I've been seeing so many people where it's like, oh, it's bad this, oh, it's bad that. I think it was just heat in the moment mixed with just the raw, pure emotion of football.
Yeah, and if you don't care, I mean, that's even worse, right? I mean, if you were just sitting there stoic, like, okay, yeah, we won, on to the next. Like, fans don't want to see that either. They want to see a little bit of passion. Like maybe did Dinwiddie go a little too far with his celebration and kind of, throwing it in their face a little bit? You could probably make that argument, but at the same time, as you said, heat of the moment, sometimes these things just kind of get the better of you. I mean, let's face it. I mean, was it a few weeks ago, people were questioning Ryan Dinwiddie, especially of his comments after, heads are going to roll if certain pretenders are in this building and all that stuff. And people were giving him the gears for that. I'm like, what do you want out of this guy? I mean, he brought this team 2 rings in the past 3 years. I think he's kind of got the leeway now to say and do what he thinks is going to work, whether or not you agree with it. Or, as they always say, you can question the methods, but you can't argue with the results. I mean, 2 rings in 3 years. I think that gives Ryan Dinwiddie just a little bit of play, a little bit of slack, if you will.
I also think, too, with him, it's just he's a coach where his floor, is the East Final. Every single, the 4 seasons he's been here so far, the worst case scenario for Toronto's been the East Final. So this year there was a lot of adversity. There was a lot of questions with just overall, not talent management, but just like, replacing people is not like what it once was, where it's always next man up. Obviously, look, it's taken some time. It's taken some lumps, taken some bumps, but that's kind of what helps build character and make teams great. You know what? Hey, you learn about the journey on the way. Look at the Montreal Alouettes 2 years ago. The big question going into the playoffs was their wins were all against teams that were beneath them. They basically, I think they lost that year to Winnipeg, Toronto, and I want to say BC. So with them, they get to the playoffs and they're basically, okay, no one believes in us. We're going to take care of Hamilton. We're going to go into a sold-out BMO field in Toronto and just, give every single person there, especially a lot of people too who were thinking, hey, this Argonaut team can be special. You basically just take away everything from them. And what do? Grey Cup, you don't have a chance to win. This is the year that Winnipeg gets it. You don't do it, and Cody Fajardo has one of the greatest legacy drives in the history of this league. So there's a lot of, I feel like, not that same DNA, but it's that same like identity where it's like, hey, it's us against the world. The outside says what the outside wants, but in this building, because Ryan Dinwiddie also too he'll speak it as it is. He's not afraid to say who he upsets. He's not afraid to, say what he wants in a way, but he'll give it to you honestly. Every time I ask him a question, he's always just straight up honest with me, and I always respect him for that. But that's just the vibe I get with this team, is where they don't care what myself, the other pundits, fans are saying. It's the buy-in that comes from that locker room is what drives them, and I think will continue to drive them, especially if they do want to play significant football coming down the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, and smart coaches and players will use that sort of thing. I don't really like the term bulletin board material, but sometimes just that you need that extra little bit of motivation, that little bit of something that says, okay, clearly they don't believe in us. Let's go show them. And I think that's where you see a lot of championship teams. They go into that, mindset of nobody believes in us. Even if they're the best team in the league, all of a sudden nobody believes in you just because you start showing little chinks in the armor or the little things start to falter. You're like, oh, all of a sudden they're maybe not so good anymore. Oh, nobody believes in us. Like, who's saying that? Like, especially if you're like a 16-2 team or 15-3, and you think nobody believes in you. But it's a great motivator for a lot of teams, and some of them really do take it to heart. I mean, I think of Montreal, they're kind of in that same boat as well. Like their thought is if they can run the table, they will replicate that record of 11-7 that they had in 2023 when they went on that run, caught fire at the right time, and yes, walked away with the Grey Cup. I think the hope is that you can catch lightning in a bottle again with this sort of thing. So I think that's their motivation right now. And beating Saskatchewan the way they did this past Saturday, is that going to be that same spark that happened back in 2023? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's a chance to do the same thing, but just in a different way and just kind of rewrite history yet again. Only time's going to tell on that one, but it all starts with winning. And that's right now, that's the key is you've got to win by any means necessary. You've got to find a way to win, put that distance between yourself and the people that are below you. I mean, if you can catch Hamilton, so much the better. But I mean, I think ultimately Montreal now, they know what their plan is. They know what they have to get done in order to get back into the Grey Cup, and they're going to do it whatever it is by any means necessary.
And the thing with Hamilton too is just they've had not an up and down year, but they've had some games where it's like, hey, they look good, and then there are some games where it's like even the game on Labor Day. But they're obviously playing for something a little bit more now, and I'm just going to segue into this just because. Look, Friday, we all got the news I don't think any CFL fan wanted or was looking forward to, but the untimely passing of GM Ted Goveia after a battle with cancer this year. There was something in those victories, like the dub cam videos that they were showing. Obviously, those are hard to pay respects to Ted. Obviously, I don't know if Cliff's ever met him. I've never met him, but what I've heard from my colleague John Hodge at 3 Down Nation wrote a beautiful column about him. He's got some other stuff coming out too about that. I recommend anyone go check it out. But it just seems like this team, the DNA that Ted was building in Hamilton, and the fact they rallied around him when he was sick, and the tribute they did for him on Friday, and even the dub camps where it's just, hey, that one's for Ted. They did a beautiful job honoring him Friday night. I'm not saying this is the year because as an Argos fan, there's part of me that doesn't want to see Hamilton win the Grey Cup. But I feel like for them, if this is the year to do it, there's never been like a more perfect year for them to do it because of how well the team's playing, because of the off-field tragedy that they just went through. It's just that perfect firestorm that really can help catapult them because, look, a lot of teams and stuff like this happens. You can crater, you can turtle. I don't think the Hamilton Tiger Cats are going to do that. There's something in that DNA with that football team that's truly saying now, hey, we're not just representing this region, the city. We're representing something that's bigger than the game of football right now, and that's to honor the life of Ted Goveia.
Yeah, and again, when you've got players like Bo Levi Mitchell and Kenny Lawler, and these guys are just starting to hit their stride as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they don't look threatening in the sense that they're not piling on tons of points, but they're just doing the things that they need to do to win football games. And if you're doing that, that's half the battle right there. I mean, their defense at times can look fearsome, but at times can just be porous. But as long as Bo Levi's there, and he's found like the fountain of youth all of a sudden, and people are writing him off like 2-3 years ago. All of a sudden, he's in the MOP conversation along with Kenny Lawler too, who's always been, for my money, one of if not the best receivers in the Canadian Football League. So you put those two guys together, and literally anything is possible when it comes to making the playoffs or even getting to the Grey Cup. And to have that motivator, I mean, to be the one thought that took me by surprise more than anything else with Ted Goveia's passing is that game that this past Friday was dedicated to him. Like that was the Team Ted game, as they called it, or just their way of paying respect to him and showing him their support and everything like that. And the fact that he passed away that day is just like, geez, like that's tough. And as you said, like the emotion afterwards from players and that, like, just people that were touched by him, and that a lot of those guys, they don't make it to the Hamilton Tiger Cats and are playing if he's not there as as the general manager. So Yeah, I mean, emotions do crazy things, and I think something like this, as crazy as it sounds, can actually help galvanize a team, remind them what's important. I mean, yes, winning is important, and getting a Grey Cup would be fantastic, but to do it in honor of a part of your family, like, and that's what Ted Goveia was he was a part of that Hamilton Tiger Cats family, and what better way to pay tribute to him and everything he's done is to take the team that he helped build, essentially, go all the way to the Grey Cup and finally bring it home for Hamilton.
I always find in life, in tragedy and grief, it can often, you can, like, how they say, like, the phoenix rises from the ashes. It's kind of that sort of metaphor right now with them, where it's, look, because it's not just like Ted was there before and there. He got there 9 months ago, and 9 months later, he's no longer with us. It's those reminders that life's very precious and fragile. It's one of those reminders that, hey, for, like, you could be living a great life. Like we say, Ted finally makes it back home to his home region. I know he's from Burlington, but still it's considered Cat Town.
Yep.
And he gets the job he always wanted. And then, like I say, he's gone. He was 55. That's way too young. But for the football team, I even look at guys like Verisek on the defense as well, who's real. I know he had the really scary incident Friday night. He was already back playing on the golf course on Saturday, though. I was like, what a guy. I'd be doing the same. I was like, oh my God, that would not be me. But guys like that, where he really took chances because he saw something. That's the thing. He basically, like, you are someone who can help this football team immediately. Because we all know, like, look, obviously Hamilton's rivals for both of us, me so more than you. But we all know, and I've always known this, a Grey Cup there obviously does not have the same equivalent as this banner, if you can recognize the logo, winning another championship.
Oh, no.
But I feel like it would have a similar impact for Cat fans because, let's be honest, I was 5 going on 6 the last time they won a Grey Cup, and I'm going to be 32 in about 3 months. So it's been a while for Cat fans. So I know that there's a sense of not even pride, but I think it's just a sense of, like, relief. It's a sense of just the emotions of everything because of potentially winning a championship, because of the circumstances that have been laid around it. There's so much to do with this that they're going to be one of the most fascinating stories down this final stretch of the CFL, because I know I said they're a lock for the playoffs. I never said they're a lock for the 1 seed, because I still think there's a chance they do lose it. But I do, if I had to put my money on it, though, I would say that November 8th, look, 3 years in a row it was at BMO Field. Last year it was at Percival Molson. If I had to put my money on it, I would bet that it's going to be in Hamilton November 8th.
It'd be a pretty good bet, to tell you the truth. I mean, again, anything could happen in this league. That's what makes it so wonderful. But yeah, I think at this point, it's like they truly do control their destiny. Like, it really is their opportunity to lose. So, but I don't think they're going to. I think they believe in themselves. I think they've got the horses to get it done. And ultimately, it's just a matter of just getting through these last, I think for them, it's 5 games left, and just cementing themselves as the best team right now in the Eastern Division.
So I'm just going to look at their schedule quickly. They play versus the Elks, at Winnipeg, at Toronto, versus Calgary, versus Ottawa, with a bye week in there. So they do have the horses. They do have all the potential in the world to get there. I think it's really just now, like, hey, how far are you going to take this journey and go? Before we get into this week's games, there was a bit of a glitch at the beginning of the show where last week's NFL slate was on there. But I want to segue at a perfect time, because I know Cliff's a 49ers fan. I know Cliff's had to go on the Mac Jones experience. So I got to ask you, I know it was against New Orleans, but what was your thoughts? And I know some of the game for a very iconic interview we'll talk about later. Mm-hmm. But what do you think of the Mac Jones experience as a Pats fan to a Niners fan?
Ooh, you know what? I have to laugh. Back in 2021, when he was drafted, the 49ers had the 3rd overall pick, and a lot of people were really thinking that Kyle Shanahan was going to take Mac Jones. And I was really hoping that he wouldn't, just because, yeah, he played decent enough in Alabama, but I just didn't see him as a winner. I didn't see him as the kind of quarterback that you can build a franchise around. And the 49ers desperately needed a quarterback. And I just like, this guy is not the answer. He's never going to be the answer. And some people were kind of needling me about that. Like, oh, they're going to take him. You know, they're going to take him. They, in fact, trading 3 first-round draft picks to move up. You know, they're going to go get Mac Jones. I'm like, God, I hope not. God, I hope not. And sure enough, when they went and drafted Trey Lance, I'm like, whew, okay. And then Jones ends up in New England, and just still keeping tabs on him a little bit, just because people wondered what could have been. And then when they announced in free agency this year that 49ers were signing, I'm like, you know what? The only way I want to see this guy on the field is if Brock Purdy's hurt. I'm not that I want to see Brock Purdy hurt, but like, okay, you take a flyer, see what happens. You never know. Like I'm a big believer in sometimes it's the system that you're in, and it didn't work in New England. It didn't work in Jacksonville. I don't think it's going to work in San Francisco necessarily, but hey, weirder things have happened. And then when this Sunday came around and it was ultimately Mac Jones's game to play, like, all right, let's see. I'm a firm believer in that no expectations equals no disappointment. So whatever happens, happens. I mean, I still think the 49ers as a whole were good enough to beat the Saints, no matter who was behind center. But then Mac Jones played a pretty decent game. I'm like, okay. It took a little while to get going. It took, like a classic car. It took a little while to get the engine warmed up, but once he got going and he started connecting, like, oh, okay, there might be something here. Like this is going much better than I could have possibly anticipated, or like I'm not mad at this at all. And yeah, I got a little too close for comfort towards the end, but again, I always say winners find a way to win, and the 49ers, they pulled it off. So now 2-0 to start the year, and I saw the best fact the other day. The 49ers, the last time they started on the road, 2 games and went 0-2, or 2-0, I should say, with 2 different quarterbacks, they went to and won the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be a guarantee, of course, but the fact that the Super Bowl is being played in their stadium this year,
yes.
I mean, if you're looking for motivating factors, and if you want to read the tea leaves and see what the stats say and all that stuff, I mean, that's a hell of a stat to think about. I mean, Brock Purdy and Mac Jones both win games. Niners start 2-0 on the road. Stranger things have happened. We were talking earlier about trying to capture lightning in a bottle again. That wouldn't be so terrible to see if you're a 49ers fan.
I think with San Francisco too, obviously George Kittle's out with the hamstring, Brock Purdy's turf toe, but his is not as serious as Joe Burrow's, which Burrow's going to be out for a little bit of time. But I know Brock's going to be back sometime in October. I think if they can stay healthy, they're really going to be one of the top teams in the NFC. I think the NFC is a bit of a, not bloodbath, but now you have some surprises, like with Green Bay playing as well as they're playing. Atlanta, I know they're 1-1, but they're not looking too shabby. And then you have, the Buccaneers right there, who I was high on all offseason. Rams are 2-0. There's a lot of teams in the NFC that can, make some noise, drum up some expectation. And I think if San Francisco stays healthy and continues to play the way they are, and also the fact their defense is playing the way it is under Rob Saleh being back, they're going, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be a team in the NFC. They're not going to just be like, like last year, 6-11. I just think that was injury to do, yada, yada, yada. I think they're going to be a good team, but they're really in the same boat where it's like, hey, they control their own destiny, because Kyle Shanahan's had that weird effect where it's either you get to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, or you miss the playoffs. And I think this year, same thing, if I had to bet on it, I would say the Niners are in the playoff conversation and have a potential chance to be one of the teams playing on Championship Sunday come January.
Without question. And the re-addition of Robert Saleh makes me so happy. I absolutely love him as a coach. He is such a great motivator of men, and just the way he coaches up and the defense that he puts out there, my God. I mean, it's just a thing of beauty. And I said, if the 49ers were to bring back Robert Saleh, make some certain moves and all that, take advantage of this cupcake schedule that they got as a result of, a less than stellar campaign in 2024, it will have been all worth it, because that means they're back on track. That means that they're back, they're healthy, they're being coached again by one of the best defensive guys in the league. I mean, at that point, just keep doing what you know how to do. And I have a feeling that the Super Bowl hangover was there as well in 2024. As you said, the injuries. I mean, it is a grind. Going to Super Bowls and even championship games too. I mean, like now I have a feeling it's now finally starting to catch up to the Kansas City Chiefs, because now they're 0-2. and not looking so stellar. I mean,
And their fans don't know how to lose.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I think sometimes it really does catch up to you. Like sometimes, sooner than others. But I think right now Kansas City is kind of feeling what San Francisco went through last year. Is that, wow, we're exhausted. We've been playing championship football for so long that eventually it does catch up to you. And I mean, again, I'm never going to bet against Patrick Mahomes because the dude just finds ways to win. But yeah, it's just very surprising to see Kansas City 0-2 right now. But it's still early. That's the beautiful thing too, is it's still early. There's still a lot of chances to right those wrongs. So we shall see.
I also think with Kansas City too, like they'll be fine. It's just like when I say the things about their fans not knowing how to lose, like they were posting stuff about like the Travis to Taylor engagement photos where it's like we've already won, and I'm like, okay, just take the loss and move on. There was the free 4 shirts, which is just ridiculous. I don't even want to get into it just because it'll make me mad. Where I'm like, he's not suspended for nothing. He's suspended because he almost killed people. He's lucky worse than it happened. I do agree with you though. I think with them, it's just a matter of the fans and the team need to know, like, hey, we're having a bit of a reality check right now. We kind of got to like find our way. We got to find a rhythm. They obviously have the Giants on Sunday Night Football this week, so we'll see where that goes. But hey, you're 0-2. Teams have made the playoffs before, and I believe the Super Bowl from time to time being 0-2, but they really got a higher, harder mountain to climb. One other fact I want to tell you about the so you brought up earlier how the Niners have a 4th place schedule. I remember before the season started, people pointed out the difference between first place Rams and the last place Niners, because the Rams, I think, have to play the Ravens, the Lions, and I think the Eagles. Meanwhile, the Niners get the Browns, the Bears, and the Giants. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, which one would you rather have? And you're obviously going to pick what the Niners have. So as long as they take advantage of games in that situation, they're in cruise control to ultimately stay home for the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And that's the key. Like, if you're going to, I don't believe in tanks. I don't believe the 49ers tanked last year. I really do think they were just so banged up that they couldn't win. But as a result, when you're the 4th place team, you get a much easier schedule to get yourself back on track. So to me, that's a gift, especially because I know how talented this football team truly is when they're healthy. So if the NFL is going to give you a gift like that, like playing those teams that you'd mentioned, absolutely, you got to take advantage of it. I mean, yeah, every year you have to play the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams. Okay, that's a guarantee. Everything else, though, is up in the air. I mean, even the Saints, not a whole lot of love for them. And, most of the NFC South is hit or miss. I mean, I definitely think Tampa Bay is going to be a challenge of the 4 teams in that division. I think Tampa Bay is a game that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but also, too, is not going to be – that's not one of the cupcake games that I was referring to earlier. But, again, this schedule overall really does favor this current version of the Niners if they're healthy and ready to go, which, again, hopefully Kittle's going to heal up sooner rather than later. Hopefully Brock's turf toe is not so bad. Definitely not as bad as Joe Burrow's, as you said. So that's positive. Really just a matter of now is strap in and enjoy the Mac Jones experience. I say this as I'm holding my nose. But hey,
hold your nose for
just
Mac
win.
Hold the nose for Jones. We're going to pivot back to the CFL now, Week 16. We got 4 great games to preview, as always, guys, at link in bio for that Gents promo code for Gents Boutique. Toronto and Montreal in a game originally as this week open. This game was a pick-em, but with a Nick Arbuckle injury news and Jared Daggy getting to start at quarterback, Montreal has jumped to a 6.5-point favorite in this game. There is a small part of me that thinks I don't think Toronto gets blown out in this game. But the more I look at this game, I can see a world where, look, Tyson Philpott reminded the league last week, exactly who the F he is. Just like, and also, I forget the player's name of Saskatchewan, but he made his life hell. Like, that was a nightmare mismatch. The coaching staff should have never done it. It was just, hey, go out here and do your best. And your best was allowing him to get over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I feel like if the Toronto defense can keep the Montreal offense in check, this game can be close to where Toronto can win it. But I think if the Toronto defense has a bad day, this game, I think, could potentially be similar to what we saw week 1.
My big question, though, is McLeod Bethel Thompson.
Yes.
without question, he played a phenomenal game this past Saturday. But the rest of 2025 has just been terrible. I'm sorry to say, but it really has been terrible for him. Now, was that all just because of injury, or just not finding his rhythm in Montreal, and now finally he's found it? That's a very good possibility. My question though is which version of McLeod Bethel Thompson is going to show up at BMO Field on Friday? If it's the one that basically pants the Riders, then yeah, Alouettes fans should be very excited about that, because that means, okay, this is the quarterback that we were willing to give up Cody Fajardo for, or I would say had to give up Cody Fajardo for, but
swapped Cody Fajardo for.
Sure. I mean, again, that move, and I know there's still a lot of fans that are upset about that move, and I get it, especially since Cody's been playing extremely well for Edmonton. And as I said, MBT had not been playing that great for Montreal. Why'd you make that move? We've discussed this ad nauseum on the Alouettes flight deck. I mean, it was a move that had to be made. And again, I think if Danny Machocha knew that Davis Alexander was going to miss the lion's share of the season due to injury, he would not have made that trade. He would have found a way to make those two play nice together. And I think that was ultimately the key. But it is what it is. And now, MBT has got the reins. And if he really has found his form, and this game against Saskatchewan wasn't just a blip on the radar, I hope so for Alouettes fans, because, as we talked about, it's pretty clear what needs to be done. If they want to replicate that success of 2023, they've got to run the table. I mean, at this point, I think it's just a matter of now of keeping in front of Toronto and Ottawa, and a win against the Argos, which would give them, well, they already have the season series, but a sweep of the season series, and those extra points ahead of them would be a massive boost, not just to the confidence, but to Alouettes fans feeling like, okay, we got this. We're going to be good, and just keep building that momentum. Because again, you're going to be playing next week Calgary, then you have a home and home against Ottawa, and then you finish the season in Winnipeg. And right now, Winnipeg, we just don't know what's happening with Zach Caleros, and Chris Trevler has shown that he's definitely not the answer there. So anything could happen when you go to Princess Auto Stadium, and maybe that too could be a little bit of a motivating factor for the Alouettes, is to, like, hey, guess what? If all goes well, you could be back here playing a football game in a few weeks. So maybe that too could be the motive, this even more of a spark, to light the fire in them even further. So. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it all starts this Friday against Toronto. I'm not going to lie. I think if Nick Arbuckle was playing this game, I think you'd be worried if you're an Alouettes fan. But Jared Dagey, yeah, he had that game-winning drive, but can he put together 4 quarters against an Alouettes defense that showed themselves again last week to be, I won't say back necessarily, but what a difference it makes when you're not on the field 3 quarters of the game. I think that the Alouettes had a chance to rest their defense by having these long, sustained offensive drives. And this defense got back to being themselves. They rediscovered who they were again. And again, if you're an Alouettes fan, that's what you want to see. If you're an Argos fan, maybe you don't quite want to see that.
So, call me crazy, but because I think of what Montreal did on Saturday, I think this game's more of a must-win for Toronto than it is for Montreal. Now, that being said, if Montreal had lost Saturday night, my whole take on playoff eliminator, loser leaves town, where this loss, it doesn't exactly kill you, but it really, it feels like a gut punch. It's like a reality check loss where it's like, we're fine. Like for Toronto, we're 5-8 right now. We're looking good. You're 5-9. You got to run the table and win your last 4 games, where you're hoping for them that the people are resting starters, but I don't think BC, because BC is still fighting for their life.
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton, they would love nothing more than to take the season series to Toronto for a second straight year. And then Sask and Calgary, they're pretty much still pecking for 1 and 2, because for some reason the Rough Riders like to do the ABC method. We'll beat anyone but Calgary. So for a game like this for Toronto, I think we're going to find out really how they are. I think the game plan is going to be not simple, but I think they're going to do it to Daggy to where you're not going to see a lot of risks. You're not going to see him airing it out, I think, the same way Arbuckle is, unless throughout the game he's proving, hey, he's showing what he can do to feel confident in himself. He's showing what he can do to, hey, win over the trust of not just Ryan Dinwiddie, but Mike Miller, QB coach as well. And then the defense, like I said, if the defensive line can keep MBT in check, get some sacks, cause havoc for an O-line who's a really good offensive line in Montreal, shut down the run game. There's Mac, there's Philpott. I believe, what was it, Tyler Snead today just signed a nice extension with the team through 2027.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So Montreal has a plethora of weapons that they can go to where I'm not saying it's the same team as week one, but if Toronto comes out and has that kind of performance because of the way the last 3 games have gone, that sense of panic or that sense of oh, this is what it feels like to lose can kick in. But if they win this game, they're at 6-8. I believe Montreal will be at 6-8 if they lose this game as well.
Mm-hmm.
If that were to happen, you know what they say, the sky's the limit for either team, to where I think whoever wins Friday night is going to be just beaming with confidence going into week 17 to 21. So my biggest question, I'm going to lean Montreal just because of what I saw last weekend and because of the quarterback situation. But the way this Argonauts team has been just rallying the last few weeks, and also the fact that, look, they can go out there and rely on number 70, Haralahu, to kick a game-winning field goal, can go a long way. But as well, Maltos and Montreal could do the exact same thing. So I would not shock me to see a Montreal win. It would not shock me to see a Toronto win, but I have a prediction. I think either Toronto wins this one close or Montreal wins this one by about a score.
I can see that. I don't think it'll be a blowout for either team. I think
when I say that score, I mean somewhere between 6 to 10 points.
Right. Yeah, no, this is again, I don't think either team can afford to take the other lightly by any stretch. And yes, Montreal does have the season series in hand. I mean, that's a good thing if it came down to tiebreakers and things like that. But ultimately, I think they want to truly establish themselves. I think this win against Saskatchewan really did. Had to be a major boost of confidence, not just for MBT, but for the team as a whole. And they've been going through it for the past few weeks. I mean, to basically be 0 for August is not fun. You start doubting yourself. I mean, a 5-game losing streak. I mean, that should ice just about any team. But I think Montreal rediscovered themselves. I think they remind themselves, like you said earlier, who the F they are. And a team like that, you almost don't want to wake a sleeping giant like that. But again, Toronto is no slouch by any stretch. And what I'm truly surprised about, and maybe I shouldn't be, is we're waiting for Chad Kelly to come back, and still not back yet. It's really remarkable, especially after him dropping that comeback video on YouTube and or Instagram, I should say. And okay, he's coming back, but then he's not, and he's still not. And wow, okay. At this point, you may as well just shut him down for the season. I would think if it's that bad, his injury.
He wasn't on the injury report today, but I don't think we see him Friday. Ryan Dinwiddie already said today at practice, Jarrett's going to start this week. Arbuckle's out 2 to 4 weeks, which could either be the rest of the regular season, or I think potential return would probably be. I don't think he would return until maybe that Sask game, October 10th. But I do think they're at a point where, even though Nick Arbuckle did have a bad game on Saturday, that they will, unless I think the only way they would see Chad is if Jarrett is not ready for the spotlight and they really need someone to step in. I think that's when they, activate the thing with Kelly. But as well this week, they had a short practice today. They're going to have a full practice tomorrow. And they're going to have a walkthrough on Thursday. For a quarterback who hasn't played in almost a year, you need to give him a full week of practice. So I do think if we were to see Chad, it would be one of those next 2 games, either against at BC or versus Hamilton, because he will have a full week, or for Hamilton, he'll have 8 days between games. So I think it's just the fact, too, like they said, they took Sunday off because of the win. Monday was pretty much a film day, I believe. I don't know. The team doesn't say that. But like I said, today was like a half an hour, 45-minute practice, I think. And then tomorrow's a full practice, and then simple 45-minute walkthrough to, put all the pieces in place for Friday night. So I just think throwing Chad into a situation like that on a short week would not be ideal. So I think they're just waiting for the right time and the right situation. As for the Instagram video, I think it was just him coming off the 6th game, being he thought hey, this is my 6th game. I'm coming off the 6-game injured list. Let's ride. Didn't end up happening. Calgary and BC to end the Friday night nightcap. I really like to see what I've seen from Calgary, but the loss of Flo or Malade is going to be big. Obviously, out for the year with a torn Achilles. I know they've had some other injury trouble in Calgary. And you got a BC team who lost a bad one at Ottawa, but then last week really showed Ottawa. Nathan Rourke especially showed the rest of the league, hey, I am that guy from the NFL. I am that guy from 2022 who's awesome. So call me crazy, but I think this is the game the Lions get because the Lions really need this game as well. I know Calgary's still Calgary. They're still a really good team. But that Lion is hungry and it's ready to roar.
I can definitely see that. I just can't bet against Vernon Adams. I mean, he just finds ways to win. I mean, you're talking about two quarterbacks that are 100% MOP candidates and will want to further establish themselves as such, which is going to make for great football no matter what. I mean, do I see this being a shootout? Potentially, but at the same time, I don't think anyone's going to take any crazy risks because, quite frankly, they don't need to. Just as long as they play their game, they're going to be successful. So, yeah, this one, like this has all the potential to be a super fun, a really entertaining matchup, and could come down to whoever has the ball last is going to win this game.
The over for this game is 53.5 points, and that over screaming at me like the Green Goblin mask in Spider-Man.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. Friday night over. Got to do it. Next game is a pick'em. Saturday afternoon in Ottawa, Winnipeg. I'm going Winnipeg because of the same reasons of why people went with Montreal last week. The Bombers are in desperate need of a get-right game. The Bombers are still the better football team. And with all the doubt and criticism surrounding them, the Bombers need to win this game because if they go into Ottawa and have a flat effort, I don't know if it's going to be, at the time of recording this, it's still Tuesday, so we don't know. Is it going to be Dustin Crum? Is it going to be Drew Brown? I think you just have a desperate Winnipeg team who needs to win badly. And when they're on plus money, I can't ignore that, especially because I still value them ahead of Ottawa, even for as badly as they played the last three games.
You're talking about two teams that are going basically the same direction, unfortunately. But I think Chris Trevler ultimately has so much to prove right now because he
also a great running back that they don't want to use for some reason.
This I don't understand, and this is what bothered me the most when MBT had taken over for Davis Alexander is sometimes it takes a while to connect with your receivers as a quarterback. I get that.
Yep.
That's why if you've got a great running back or even a good running back, you hand the ball off to him. You give him the rock. And Brady Oliveira is, again, he doesn't have the stats this year, but yeah, defending MOP, defending most outstanding Canadian, which I'm sorry he shouldn't have been, but okay. I mean, what's going on in Winnipeg? Like how Jason Hogan, their OC, like does he not realize he has that guy in his lineup? Like and again, I get all the hype with Streffler is again he's basically Canadian Tim Tebow, right? He can't throw a lick, but boy, can he run and is he stout and all that jazz. Like he's basically a fullback playing as a quarterback. But if it's not working, like if it's the same idea, I say to Streffler is if it's not working connecting with your receivers, hand it off. I mean, or take it yourself even, but hand it off. I mean, Brady Oliveira, all this guy does is just rumble and keep his legs churning and gets first downs. I mean, it may not be pretty football, but he can get the job done. So I think this game is going to be a testament to just can Chris Trevler basically flush that awful game against Hamilton, look ahead to Ottawa and say like if I can make my reads and I can get the connect my receivers, great. But if not, I'll just hand it to number 20. He can do some pretty good stuff too. I mean, if you can do that, then yeah, Winnipeg definitely has a chance to get themselves back on track. But if not, you got the crumb back happening. I mean, and yeah, it did not look great out in the BC, but I mean, Eastern teams for the most part always seem to struggle a little bit going out west. So I mean, I kind of want to take it as that more so than maybe they just got lucky in their win against BC. Like was it 3 weeks ago? Again,
yeah,
Ottawa is one of those or two. Sorry. But again, Ottawa too. They've got, as I said, they're still mathematically in the playoff hunt, but they really got to start stringing wins together now. Like, I mean, like they really truly have to run the table, and maybe if they can just get inside Winnipeg's head just a little bit, because, well, was last week a sign of things to come, or was it just a bad day at the office? Who knows? But yeah, this game on paper doesn't sound like it's going to be super exciting, but just for those factors alone, you may just have to tune in just to, maybe just to have that little bit of a car crash aspect to it. It's like, I got to see what's going to happen here, because this has potential to be ugly, but in a fun way.
Yeah, like the thing too, and even with Winnipeg, they're weird right now. Like Michael Shea's like, oh, I don't like injury news getting reported. Like, why do you guys have to report when someone's injured? And it's just like the public has the right to know. There's a bigger aspect to injury reports as well. I don't know if you know this or not, but the NFL reports really every team releases them because of sports gambling.
Yep.
The CFL slowly getting more and more involved with sports gambling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the thing he does. Like, obviously, it is player's personal news, yes, but when a player is personal next to them, it's because the player chooses, hey, I don't want to have what I'm going through on there. Whether they're having a kid, personal like debt, like bereavement, et cetera, et cetera. That's just the little thing I want to say about them. But Winnipeg this year has been such a weird team to where, like, the first few games of the year when Zach was out, it was like, oh, they look fine. Like, they took care of BC, no problem. They're cruising. And then there's just some games they've had, like where they played Toronto in Toronto and they like couldn't get anything going. And then the next week they're in Winnipeg and they won because, Trey Vaval had 2 return touchdowns where they basically did also everything in their power to lose that game as well. The Bombers are in a spot right now to where it's kind of like Kansas City in a way, but obviously they haven't had this. They have had similar success, but they've had 2 Grey Cups, but they've also lost 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like with Winnipeg now, you got to start looking at the future because eventually the Elks are going to be there. The Rough Riders aren't going away. The Stampeders, we've seen this year, hey, they had a renaissance. And the BC Lions, they're a very adequate football team. There's nothing bad there. Their defense is starting to find its footing as well. That's the other reason why I'm going with the Lions for Friday, because also they know VA very well. I'm not saying the Lions are going to win, but I definitely like them to cover that 6-point number. Mm-hmm. Going back to this game, though, if you are Winnipeg and you lose this game, there's a chance that you're the team on the outside looking in. There's a chance you do that. And Ottawa is right back in the mix too. Like we said, because Ottawa still has to play Montreal twice. They split with Toronto. And I believe they still have to play Hamilton once. So if my basically thing is for Winnipeg, and I've seen some football all the time more in the NFL where they'll do a show me draft. Like, hey, show me something. I'm going to do this. Show me something, Mike O'Shea. Show me that you can beat a football team you're supposed to beat. The betting lines don't think you're going to do it because I gave you the underdog distinction in the pickup game. And because if you look at their last 3 games, bad loss against the Riders in Ridertown. And then what do the Riders do? They come into your building and they beat you. And on a very emotional night in Hamilton, you guys just didn't have the lumps to get it done. So if I'm the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you got to get the win here, because if not, now when? Because this just seems like basically 2 people jumping out of an airplane, but it's just you're both are skydiving and one team has a parachute and one team doesn't have a parachute. If you're a Bombers fan, you're praying to God that when they pull that lever to get the parachute out, the parachute releases. I know it's a very weird metaphor, but that's just how this game seems, where it's like 2 teams falling, but one team's going to get saved.
Yeah, something's going to happen, and or let's say tie, but we don't want that.
No, that opens chaos. I don't think anyone wants that.
Sometimes you want chaos, but in this instance, I just don't. Oh gosh, I don't even want. Yeah, you know what? Forget I said anything. That's just. You
put it in the universe. So if it happens, I'm blaming you.
I'll have to take it. I mean, just
Yeah. And then Saturday
night, like chaos.
Yeah. Hey, CFL. The C basically stands for chaos instead of Canadian. And then Saturday night we finish off in Hamilton once again as the Elks are coming back to Ontario to take on the Ticats. Give me Hamilton. I think losses of the way they lost and just the overall reaction to it, and the fact that there was so much talking, the fact that like they basically let Toronto stay in that game. and you have to make that round trip flight back from Alberta. You have to come to Ontario last week, then you go all the way back to Alberta, and then you have to come all the way back. I just think this is it's basically like blood in the water for the Cat. If you ever put an elk and a tiger in a fight, I'm sorry to my friends at the Turf District, including Andrew Hoskins, who was on here last week, but I think this might be a long day for the Elks. I think the Cats are going to handle business Saturday night. Also, I did get something wrong, by the way. It was Hall of Fame game. The Hall of Fame game is this weekend, where I know you just interviewed a Hall of Famer as well, in Brian Chu, which I want to talk to you about. But that's just how I view this game. I think this is going to be a long day for the Elks.
Definitely has potential, and yeah, like I'm sure that they must be cursing the schedule makers. Like, how do you have us fly to Toronto, then we got to fly back to Edmonton, only to fly back to Hamilton, in the span of 2 weeks? I'm like, so weird. And and I guess the owner maybe didn't want to shell out to let the team stay in Ontario, which would have been fantastic and probably wouldn't even mattered. But we don't really see that too much anymore.
No, but still, that like stuff like that would really kind of help, to where if they were like in like Oakville or Burlington, and they're staying at like some hotels, or they're like like they're practicing at a random high school and stuff, I think it would help. But then now it's like, hey, last Friday we take a flight back out here, and then Saturday we go back, and now Friday we go there, and then Saturday we go back, and this game's at night as well, so it's not going to be done till 10 o'clock. We're probably not going to get to the airport till 11:30, and then it's like a 3.5, 4 hour flight. So by the time they get back home, it's midnight. It's late Saturday night. It's just basically, I just feel like this game was like last Saturday's loss was kind of like the beginning of the end for the Elks.
I guess we'll see. I mean, that's again, Cody Fajardo's definitely reinvented himself and the best possible way for Elks fans, and given them hope. Even, I mean, you saw the Labor Day game against or the Labor Day rematch against Calgary. That was as full a stadium as we've seen in Edmonton in a long time. There's definitely belief. There's definitely hope again. And listen, I mean, it took everything they had they really gave the Argos fits as well. So I mean, this is a team that can play with just about anybody and come away with the W more often than not. So I don't think Hamilton's going to take them lightly either. I think with they always seem to be motivated for that Hall of Fame game as well, hosting it and all that. So there is that to consider as well. So I don't know. I'm kind of looking at Cody Fajardo though, and just the way he's put this team on his back, just like he did in 2023 with the Montreal Alouettes. You almost don't want to bet against him, because he's going to just hit you with the "F you, just watch," and I think that motivates him so much more now than it did back even in 2023, to showcase that, hey, everybody keeps doubting me, but I'm going to show you. And this could be one of those games for Edmonton as well. But I mean, again, flying back to Hamilton, taking on Bo Levi Mitchell and company in I won't say a hostile environment, although I've gone to games in Hamilton and it can get a little hostile at times. But I don't think there's that vitriol hate for Edmonton that there is for, say, Toronto or Montreal or anyone in the East. But again, this is one of those games. I think they're going to go as far as what Cody will take them, but sometimes the law of the jungle applies, and you're right. you put an elk and a tiger together, more often than not, the tiger is going to win.
That's pretty much just like, I just want to say that because I'm just like, nothing about this game screams positive unless Cody Fajardo has some Hamilton magic like he did 2 years ago in that stadium. But I just see a world where it's, like we say, Hamilton gets it for the Hall of Fame game. Hamilton's a team on a roll to where I just don't know who stops them, because as well for Winnipeg, you got them coming to town next weekend, where that's why I also picked Winnipeg, because Winnipeg basically has to win this game because I don't see them beating Hamilton next week. So at the end of the day, I'm just looking at this. I'm like, who's stepping up to the challenge to the Ticats? Because the Ticats next three, you have Edmonton, you have Winnipeg, and you have Toronto. And I think the Ticats would relish, especially one of those teams, really putting a dagger in their playoff chances.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's all with that. But anyway, like I've been saying all along, you had an interview that came out today with the newest member of the Canadian Pro Football Hall of Fame in Brian Chu. Would you like to elaborate on that a little bit? And also, too, I'll have the link in the bio for everyone to go listen.
Oh, what a treat! I mean, again, I was very fortunate to watch Brian Chu as a member of the Montreal Alouettes. I don't say growing up, but I mean, like, as a young man, and following this team. I mean, he was a stalwart on that offensive line. To watch him be a leader of men on that offensive line, and he was just one of those, not flashy at all. I mean, no, I don't think there's really truly any flashy people on the offensive line, but he truly had that hard hat lunch pail mentality, like just go in, do your job, get paid, go home kind of thing, and just lather, rinse, repeat. And to hear him tell like the stories of being coached by guys like Don Matthews and Mark Tressman, and snapping the ball to Anthony Calvillo, arguably the greatest quarterback that's ever played in this league. I mean, like, just for him to share those stories and those experiences, and talking about the Grey Cup in 2009 that he basically ended his career on. I mean, that's just incredible. Just an incredible career, and now he's transitioned into coaching. Did a little bit of coaching in the CFL as well for the offensive line, but I think he's now found his footing as a head coach for the Vancouver Junior College Fighting Irish. He's relishing that role in being basically being a leader of men and helping shape boys into men. And the way he handles himself, the way he carries himself, and has ultimately affected a lot of how he approaches things football-wise, not just in football, but in life itself. It was such a fun interview, such a great interview. And just a chance to chat with him was such a pleasure. And I definitely hope everybody goes and checks it out, because what a story. And for him to be so humble, and he's even at the point, it's like, what do you mean I'm going in the Hall of Fame? For what? Like, for being a freaking legend? I mean,
being awesome.
Yeah, like being what, like, and I said, like, look at the guys that you lined up with on game day. Those guys are in the Hall of Fame. Of course, you belong in the Hall of Fame. What a question! Like, it's, but just that humbleness that he carries himself with as a player, clearly as a coach now, and that's just his personality. That's who he is, and it's just absolutely amazing. So for him to finally get his flowers on Friday, to be truly recognized by everybody, not just like people in Montreal, but league wide, and for him to take his place amongst those legends that he played alongside with and played against, absolutely sensational. So yeah, if you get a chance, definitely check out that interview. It is truly awesome.
Amazing. That must have been a really cool moment for you, and I'm happy for you for having to get to do that. I know you had to miss the end of the Niner game to do it, but you know what? Sometimes you got to you had to put the hard hat on. You had to go to work. Got a great review, and we had a great talk today as we got you guys ready for what was not week 15, but week 16 of the CFL season. We checked in on the Niners, and you know what? We're looking forward to another great weekend of CFL football as we're hitting the home stretch to who's going to be in Winnipeg come Sunday, November 16th. Anyway, everybody out there, for Mr. Cliffy D. Pine of the Alouettes Flight Deck, I'm Griff. This has been episode number 387 of YWC Football Talk. Leaves are starting to change colors. Football's getting more exciting. Have a good night.